This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you could qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family content. And if you want me to spell it out a little easier for you, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us for episode 110 of the Auburn Experience podcast. My name is Kyle, your host, and alongside me, as always, your good friend and mine, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir, and potential early happy snow day for you in Auburn.
Oh boy, yep. After me complaining so much a week ago, looks like it might be our turn. So we'll see. War Eagle to you, War Eagle to everyone listening and watching. It's going to be a fun week in a whole variety of ways.
I didn't think that this week could get any better. I mean, there's already so much happening in the sports world and many other things as well that are even outside of sports in Auburn leading up to this weekend. But then you want to throw on top of it, as we discussed last week, the potential for a decent snow. Now we're sitting here building it up and nothing's going to happen. That's just kind of how it goes. And that's the Auburn experience for you right there. But it does seem like you guys might have a little bit of a little white picturesque view in front of Sanford Hall this week.
It might play out that way. We'll see. We're definitely eager to see if what all comes. Certainly, as things have gotten closer and a little more accurate, it looks like there might be some fun days ahead. So we will see.
And you might finally get to show us what your Auburn snowman, as we debated last week, will look like. So we expect big things out of you, sir.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Well, and we could give you a difficult time about some other things, which I'm certainly sure we will do in our main segments. We got basketball, week talk, and of course, we're going to do a where are they now segment coming up in the show. But first, Auburn potpourri. Let's talk about two smaller stories to start off with. And I'm going to start us off with congratulating and celebrating the Auburn bookstore for 80 years of existence. Now, I'm sure, and maybe you know this, Austin, I don't know, that they've existed in different places and in different fashions throughout the years. But in essence, there has been, this past week, they celebrated 80 years of the Auburn bookstore, where you have gone to go and purchase very expensive books, have oodles and oodles of Auburn gear that you could get. I love going through and looking for what all they've got all the time in there, by the way. But 80 years of the Auburn bookstore. It's been a while for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I have fond memories from my childhood of wanting to go in the AU bookstore, begging my dad to buy us some things every time we came down. And then fond memories of that freshman, sophomore year of going in and finding the books that I might need. And finding all the resources that I might need as a new nothing freshman. So really cool to see that they've been around that long, always reliable. And the Auburn University bookstore is a staple, one of the best places to get all your Auburn gear, knickknacks, or souvenirs. So really cool to see them still thriving. And I love that they're in Haley. I don't know all the places they've been either. But I just think that where they are is such an iconic spot, accessible spot for you. Yep. Whether you're coming from the concourse or inside Haley, you won't get lost in Haley looking for the AU bookstore.
No, you won't. It can be like that beacon of hope that you have
right.
as you wander aimlessly throughout the corridors and quadrants and whatever else they call it these days of trying to navigate around Haley. And think about those new dorms that are going up there, how close you're going to be to the bookstore right there. And they could be the first one to get the game day pins now, and they might all be gone if all the students run over there. That, to me, that's the big look. The bookstore obviously purchased books there as a student, obviously got a lot of gear there. But to me, it's that tradition on game day, going in there, seeing what funny quip they're coming up with. And think about it. We play a lot of these opponents a lot, in the SEC a lot. So they got to get new ones or rotate them through and all that stuff. So kudos to their current and modern staff and everything they do there, but kudos to the bookstore as a whole throughout all of its history. 80 years that they've been serving the Auburn students and, of course, the Auburn family. And we just wanted to spend some time congratulating them and thanking them for their service to all things Auburn. Another story that we didn't get to talk about last week because we were so jam-packed, and we are this week too, is in the recruiting space. But I do want to spend some time talking about it because I know it's a high value topic for a lot of people, but we're more so talking about 2026 here. Auburn added probably about a week and a half ago now at this point, 2026 wide receiver Devin Carter from Douglas County to be part of that 2026 class. So Hugh Freeze obviously has come in well known for his recruiting prowess, not just for current years and transfer portal current years, but getting a head start on things. And he's already done that and then some in the class already. But adds, I think this is the second wide receiver, if I remember correctly, in this class. I think there's one more that I'm forgetting about off the top of my head, but
I think you're right.
We keep rolling in all the talent, especially at wide. Marcus Davis, we got to give him some credit too for what he's putting together as part of Hugh's staff.
Yeah, they've made wide receiver a priority, and I think we saw that with the Freeze 4 this past season, and we've seen that with as it continues. So the wide receivers in Hugh Freeze's offense have a historic precedent of being able to put up big numbers and do well. So when you get a wide receiver to commit to you, if you're Hugh Freeze, you must feel pretty good about him. So Devin Carter seems to be next in line there, and that's really exciting for him and for Auburn.
It really is. And I believe it was the first one out of the state of Georgia as well. And we always talk about, whether it's here, us talking about it, or in the recruiting videos that we do, the importance of not only taking care of your home state, but taking care of those two other important ones that Auburn has big connections in, that being Georgia, and that's where Devin Carter is from. And then obviously Florida as well is a big one. I'm just briefly trying to look over Denarius Gray. The first commit, I think, in the class for 2026 is also a wide receiver. Obviously, we're talking about what's current right now. Things may change if you're watching this off in the future. But for now, we want to welcome Devin Carter to the class, and hopefully we see you in the orange and blue come the 2026 season. Now, this last bit of potpourri could be a segment of its own, Austin, because I know this is really what everybody's here to talk about. We got so much to look forward to this week. I don't care if it's about snow, but what you and I have been predicting, have been almost basically guaranteeing people was going to happen.
We nailed this.
Not that it was the hardest thing to nail. College Game Day is coming back to the Plains for the 5th season in a row, the college basketball version of it, obviously, since that's what the season we're in. Now, to clarify, folks, this is the 5th in a row that the show has been running. They missed the 2020-21 season because of COVID. So 2020, 22, 23, 24, and now 25. Welcome back to the Plains. How exciting is this, Austin?
Super exciting. It's felt like ever since Bruce Pearl got this thing rolling, where it was Auburn was an attractive place to be. Auburn was a incredible hard place to play, and obviously competitive teams, that this was a no-brainer. The game day crew loves coming to Auburn because of the turnout that comes. They love it because it ends up being a great game, and Auburn at Tennessee is your next iteration of that. And I think that it is fitting. I want to say they've come for Auburn Auburn versus Tennessee before.
I think you're correct.
Because obviously there's Bruce Pearl's history, which you have to factor in, but not a surprise at all. We've been saying that this is probably their best chance. Obviously, as the season played out, it looked more and more likely that way. Now, Tennessee botched their chance of making this a top 5 game this past weekend, but Typical. We can't. Well, you can't count on a volunteer, and so we're excited. It's going to be a blast. I love that. I think we'll get into this a little bit more talking about basketball. I love that it's a morning event and game. The game is actually at night.
Yeah.
Doesn't cause quite as much stress with what else will likely happen this week. And so going to be really cool. My family's going to try and be in attendance and check it all out. So, Kyle, do you have that? I think doors open at 7 for students and general admission.
It's a great question. Here, let me give you the details about game day, and then I'll give you the full thing for everything else after that for potential other events. So, obviously, game day coming to town for the 25th. It airs at 10 to 11. It's only an hour show. That's Central Time. Keep that, and then keep in mind the tip-off is at 7:30 later. Reese Davis, Jay Billis, Jay Williams, Seth Greenberg, and Andrea Carter. The gates, let's say student gate at Neville Arena will open at 7 a.m. on Saturday the 25th, and the public will also open at 7 a.m. Now, the students will go through the student gate, which they will be partaking in festivities likely. I have confirmation from some students myself that that's going to be taking place. And then you can go through the main entrance to be part of the public viewing of College Game Day, which I have done. I will likely be doing that this year as well. So we'll be excited to watch that. The arena will be cleared at 11 a.m. So keep that in mind if you're planning on staking yourself out in there to get in there for the game. It ain't going to happen. They'll clear the arena. So there's your details. You said what I thought was interesting. You said, Austin, was that you're happy that the game will be much later than the actual event. Some people I've heard said they prefer it to lead straight into the game so that that hype is there. The crowd is completely full and it's almost like that full game day experience. So you prefer the other, what we're about to do?
I prefer the other as someone who does not have a ticket to the game.
That's where I am.
Because I think that you just have to only allow people in for game day to have a ticket, because it would be an absolute mess.
Yeah,
trying to figure out who doesn't have a ticket and get them out before the game starts. So that's my personal preference. Now, I agree with that. If you have a ticket and it's like, hey, let's ride this thing straight on in, not wait the whole day, I totally understand that as well. I think with students, it's hairy no matter what. Yep. I think when there's game is following game day, it obviously makes it easy. You're camped out in Jungle Village and you're ready to go. And once you're in, you're in. Now, I've been a part of or around and seen when it's happens later in the day and they have to clear the arena. It gets a little difficult trying to figure out who was where, if you have to line back up again in the right order and all those things. So I don't know how they're going to do it. In the past, there's been wristbands involved. I will say this, because we've given them many, many tidbits and many congratulations before. The fan experience crew, which Rhett Hobart, Paris Buchanan, that group is all ahead of. I think they will do a very good job of making sure this goes seamlessly. And they have plans in place. I feel pretty confident in saying so. We will see. It's always a fun time. Of course, Jungle Village is going to happen on a frigid week.
Yep.
I love this part of it because I don't have to be out there camping. So I can't wait to see it.
But you'll have to remember people like me who won't be camping, but at least be out there hanging out, trying to capture all the fun moments and stuff. So I will be frigid with them.
But your old self better be in a warm bed.
I will be in a, yes. Yeah, I will be in a bed, but I'm not getting hardly any sleep because, when things settle down is when I'll leave. But it's going to be a long night, I think, being out there watching the festivities, seeing what celebrities pop out, because one year we had Derek Hall come back to feed the students, and that was a pretty fun time. Aubie usually makes it. Bruce will probably make an experience. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm predicting things, and I'm probably not even going to capture the full magnitude. The important thing is that, once again, College Game Day is coming back for the Outlive game for a big matchup. Jungle Village, what formerly known as Pearlville, will happen again, and it is going to be an incredibly fun weekend on the Plains. And if you're not coming, even if you don't have a ticket, you are going to be missing out, folks. So saddle up. What a week for Auburn and Auburn basketball. All right, so that's going to be the majority.
Can I throw you one curveball?
Do it.
I'm going to throw you one curveball that we need to mention because I hear my kids screaming at me from afar. Bobby goes top 3 in the UCA National Mascot Competition. They only give him top 3 and 3rd and 2nd because they can't have him win every year. So we got to make it fun for everybody. That's the era we live in of participation trophies, I guess. But Aubie doesn't get his 12th national championship. We'll just go for it next year.
No, I'm actually glad you brought that up, and I'm ashamed myself for not including it in our list. Do you think they just basically say, look, we got to give it to someone else? I mean,
it's not even a question. Not even a question. They got to give it to Cincinnati Bearcat because what else
is a Bearcat?
Nobody knows. What else? I mean, the poor guy's got nothing else going for him, so you might as well give it to him. And then they give Smokey the Volunteer 2nd just to appease the rest of the conference. It's fine. We're not bitter about it at my house. We'll go back for number 13 next year.
They're like, look, they're already number 1 and clearly the best team in college basketball. We can't let them have one other thing on their resume. And he's already the most winning mascot in the history of, well, he's probably not of mascots, but I'm just going to pretend he is in college mascots. He's the best real Tiger out there, and also known as Bobby to some people. Yes. But congratulations to Aubie. Thanks for bringing back a bronze. We know that you're always the champion, though. in the grand scheme of things. That'll do it for Auburn Potpourri. We got so much to talk about with you and our main topics coming up next. But first, we want to talk to you about our friends at Magic Mind. I always want to ask you a question to start off our segments with them. Do you understand the concept of mental wealth? Now, mental wealth, some would define that as the management of your elements in your personal life. That can be like sleep, diet, exercise, stress, all those fun things that we love to talk about, right? So you do these for a sustained overall positive effect in your life. But when you're trying to balance these things, sometimes you need a little extra to help get you there, help to get in that right balance. The key is to find that right thing to manage all those different elements we just discussed. Now, recently, and more than recently, to be honest with you, because we've been friends with them for a while, been talking to you guys about Magic Mind and the difference that they have made in helping me function better as a content creator to get through the day, because it can get a little bit I can get distracted, I can get a little bit overwhelmed. They do a great job of helping me stay focused with their mental performance shot that we've talked about previously. Now, the big thing now that I want to talk to you about is their new sleep elixir that's going to help round out your day. Think about combining them together. That's going to get you that more well-rounded sleep. I have seen the difference, and certainly I want you to as well, to get more focused during the day, better sleep at night for better overall function of balancing all that mental wealth elements. Now, a couple more things about them. The performance shot, the mental performance shot that we've discussed before, it's not a replacement for something like your coffee. You can even combine it with it to make the effects of your coffee last longer. That sleep elixir, it will help you wind down faster as your day gets done from all the productivity you had. Think about combining them together. For the first time, there's this 24-hour bundle for focus and sleep in their mental performance shots and their elixir that's available now. If you want to take advantage of that, check it out. You can get 45% off the Magic Mind bundle with our link, magicmind.com/theauburnjan. That is TheAuburnJan, the Auburn Jan. If you're ready to give it a try, please check them out and invest in your mental wealth and resilience for 2025 with Magic Mind products. 45% off Magic Mind bundle with a link, magicmind.com/theauburnjan. First major topic for you tonight, Austin. We are still on the basketball train here. We're just going to be shooty hoops galore. Shooty hoops are awesome. Shooty hoops are number one, and your Auburn Tigers are once again officially, not just officially been named, but have earned, protected, battled for the right to be called the best in college basketball for the second time in program history. Now, we're celebrating this, Austin, obviously a week later, because the polls come out on Monday and our shows on Sunday nights. You get, I'm just spelling it out for the viewers here. But what an accomplishment. You and I have talked about this a lot. Those little benchmarks, those records, those streaks that Bruce Pearl continues to knock down. And now he's creating new streaks or new records or things like that. This is the second time that Auburn has been ranked number one in the AP poll. And that is an incredible feat. And I know that just continues to add the list of things of why you love Bruce Pearl.
Absolutely. I said last week, if the AP poll messed this up, then there's no reason to give them any credibility more. Thankfully, they finally got it right. Auburn Tigers are number one once again. Now, the team has said this. I'm going to say it. This really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? It is mid-January. You want to be number one in early April. That is a long way to go. So now I recognize that, but it is good to see that Auburn is credited with this, because it's become only even more apparent after losing their best player, after all these other top 10 teams, top 25 teams losing and having a rough night. Auburn has still managed to be on a winning streak here ever since Cameron Indoor. So really cool to see, really happy to see them back at number one. It's a little longer this time, right? Like last time it was like a short week of number one, and then had the mishap, but looks like we're going to have the second week in a row of Auburn being number one tomorrow. If on Monday when the polls come out again. So well deserved. It should have happened a few weeks prior, but we'll take it now.
Well, listen, other people had to start dropping the ball as they continue to do so throughout the week.
That's right.
And we really see who's the best in the land. Here's the thing that I want to point out. And, there's still going to be people that question whether Auburn is the true number one, deservedly so. And I don't think at this point, if you're arguing against that at this moment in time, you're just being stupid and you're not being logical.
Well, they still got one voter decided to put Iowa State at number one last week, and we see how that went yesterday.
Yep.
So we'll see how he does tomorrow.
Thank you for proving my point. You're being stupid and you're being illogical. Sorry,
Correct.
I'm just be honest with you. But the fact that they have attained this second time as number one without Janai Broome, who was at the time the leading candidate for Player of the Year and may still be again by the end of the year, but also you're doing that with some very tough SEC competition. One of those is on the road. Yes, one is at home, which gives us an incredible advantage. That's an impressive feat no matter how you slice it, because that proves that this isn't just about one player. This is a full, well-rounded team. And one more thing, Austin, I don't know if you caught this yesterday. You lose Janai Broome, but you've also had a game in your last one on the road where the guys that are going to be replacing him, Chaney and Dylan, I think the stat was between the two of them only had 4 or 5 points. So the guys that you think are going to be making up the points in that area didn't even make it up in that one particular game. This is the best team in college basketball right now, hands down. And I'm not too hopeful to think that they can continue to do that for quite some time.
It's the deepest and it's the best. You're right. You want Janai Broome back because of what all he brings to the table, what all he brings to the team, because he is, at the time of his injury, wasn't the best player in college basketball. I think that, you hope that they don't have to carry that weight too long. I had a friend tell me yesterday, every Saturday here from now to the rest of the season, as of the current polls, this might change tomorrow morning, sure, Auburn will play a ranked team. So the SEC, as we have said over and over and over, is only getting harder and deeper. So you certainly want him back as quickly as possible. But right now, like you said, this team and the depth of this team has lived up to the test.
Yes, it has lived up to the test and then some. And we couldn't be more proud of the way that they have attained this right to be number one, but have defended it. And we'll see how it continues throughout the season. Yes, and then maybe definitely into the postseason. Now, real quickly, let's kind of look at how we got there this week. 2 big games. First off, Mississippi State came to town in Auburn's first chance to defend that title. They did, obviously, Auburn get the win by the score of 88-66, if I've got my notes correctly, and I think that I do. Number 15 at the time, so they lose to Auburn. They do beat Ole Miss later in the week, so that means they'll probably still be ranked. Another quad win for Auburn. The big thing that stuck out to me here, Austin, was not just the response by the team, but people were talking about all week about people stepping up, and you saw them. Chad Baker-Mazara, Chaney Johnson had great games, and couldn't ask for anybody else really to do it because those guys that we expected stepped right up to the bat.
It was the first test without Janai Broome, and it was a team that last year, now I know everything changes in this day and age from year to year with college basketball, but last year, Mississippi State gave Auburn fits just about every time they played each other. Josh Hubbard did very well against Auburn each time. And so it was a game, I think, rightfully so. A lot of people were a little bit nervous about. We're number one again. Janai's not out there. How's this going to go? And like you said, we had plenty of people step up to the task to recover that kind of missing piece of Janai and take the slack off of where his hole was. And so now I think you see that was to me the affirmation. This team is deep. This team is as deep as we had thought and can do it against top 15 competition. So definitely good to see. I think everybody was feeling the warm and fuzzies again after dismantling the Bulldogs. And like you said, another quad one win. And we'll talk about Georgia in a minute, but this is a 10-win quad one team right now in Auburn basketball. The SEC record for in one single season is 10. Hat tip to Justin Ferguson. 10, and they have 13 more games to go. It's unbelievable.
It's a record-setting year in all facets of it. And here's the other thing that it kind of jogged a memory in my mind. I remember how much we got torched by Josh Hubbard at Mississippi State last year. And so I forgot and maybe tried to block it out. how well he played against Auburn, win or lose last year. And I was like, oh no, this is who we got to face, even at home, to defend this title first shot. And he eventually got his points. I think he ended up like with 17, but we kept him in check, and certain individuals kept him in check for most of the game. So once again, it's not the fact that Auburn has reached this point. It's how they're doing it. They're coming up against quality opponents that have the ability to catch you, especially when you may be in a weaker point that you might be without your star player. And you got to be impressed by what Auburn's put together. Speaking of, later in the week, a big matchup. Should we just go ahead and address the elephant in the room?
Hey, look, let's do it. I have no problem with this. I've been ready for this, guns blazing. Yes, I was in Athens for the game, and this is all I have to say. The field goal posts here have totally shifted. It used to be, oh, Austin's going to the game, we're going to lose. Now everyone's like, oh, Austin's at the game, that's why we struggled. Well, we still won. This guy right here is 4-0 this season. 4-0, and I'm tired of the blame. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was there. I've been there 4 different times this year, and wins are wins are wins are wins, Kyle. So you know what? I don't want to hear it because I just keep delivering. So if you want my 4 in a row record in there against Tennessee this week, please message me. I'm happy to go in your place for the $2 I have to my name. But I'm 4-0. And everybody's just like, oh, Austin's there, so that means somebody got hurt. That means somebody struggled. Well, the record stays undefeated.
I figured you were going to be prepared for that.
I've been waiting.
Look, can't ignore, though, that some things, Dylan was having some cramping issues.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know, and we did go down to the wire, and it was kind of a little bit dicey.
Never trailed.
I give you that. So the record speaks for itself. Sometimes it's not about the result, though. It's about how you got there, and things certainly have been interesting when you've
4-0, Kyle.
Well, I know. So with that in mind, certainly you got the opportunity to be a witness on the road and watch the Tigers not come back. Sorry, they never trailed. What am I talking about? 70-68. The cool thing that the SID department always does a great job of giving you stats and things that you don't even think of, but I wasn't aware at the time. 200 meetings between Auburn and Georgia after that game, and it's the most because it's the first 200th meeting Auburn has had in men's basketball. Auburn's leading that series, by the way, in case you were wondering. Not by much, but we're still winning it. And it comes where the second time only both teams are ranked. Now, Georgia was number 23 at the time. I would assume they'd probably fall back out of the rankings a little bit, but that doesn't take away from this. So when you're hearing this discussion about this, folks, this is a good Georgia team. And I despise Georgia just as much as the next person, but I'm going to give credit where credit is due. We are watching the reemergence of Georgia. So I'd say that to Auburn's credit, but I also want to give them credit as well. They've got some talented players on there, and I do not want to face them again, to be honest. And I know we've got to.
They've got talented players, and they've got a really talented coach in Mike White, who always schemes up against Auburn very well. He did it at Florida. He's doing it at Georgia. It was no question to me that the game was going to be tough with Georgia having talented players. Asa Newell is projected to be a high lottery pick. But Mike White knows Bruce Pearl, much like Buzz Williams, knows how to kind of do what he wants against Bruce Pearl, how to get him out of his comfort zone. So it's going to be a fight. It was very impressive to me without Janai Broome, and as you mentioned earlier, without Chaney Johnson and the other bigs playing up to filling that role.
Yep.
That Auburn was able to come out of there with a win. Now, look, I've said this before, and I stand by it. I am really not one to get on the refs and blame. But my goodness, they gave every chance to Georgia in the final seconds there to get them to do it. Now, I know this will pierce at Kyle's heart as well. Auburn has to make their free throws, but my goodness, to go on a road in an atmosphere like that, where people, like you said, are not used to their team being ranked, not used to their team having the kind of basketball atmosphere that they do. And you could tell because there were a whole lot of Bulldog jerseys, football jerseys in there. The fact that they were able to weather that storm is big. And it's always really cool to me. I'm going on a tangent here, but really cool to me that Auburn has a lot of Georgia natives on their team. They always have. Bruce Pearl can recruit the heck out of the area of Georgia. So it means a lot to those guys. And it was cool to see those guys get that win and feel that pride.
Yeah, we got one other element we want to talk about here. I know it's very important on all of y'all's minds, but I want to ask the question that we're trying to do every time we do this segment during the season. You and I started off SEC play with predictions of how many losses. You said 4, I said 5. Would you like to amend that based off current results? Here we sit, 5 games into SEC play?
5 games in and 13 left. I'm still good with 4.
I will bump up from 5 to 4. And I promised you guys that if I felt comfortable enough, I've seen enough to feel like we can move up in my mind to expecting 4 losses only, like as opposed to 5, because the way this team responded on the road at home without Janai. I could be wrong in jinxing this now, but I'm just saying I've seen a lot and I'm starting to get really excited about this team if I wasn't already excited enough. The final element I want us to discuss in our basketball segment is this big question right here. When will Janai Broome come back? Folks, you're not going to know until it actually happens. Now, you're going to get reports, speculations, things of that. Somebody's going to say, I heard something, or this person was at this place and they told me Joe Schmo said, all this stuff. This is an ankle injury. Personal experience with millions of them. I go to the doctor, and every time he rotates my ankle, he kind of like flinches every time because he's like, oh, yeah, I forgot how many times your ankles are so elastic because they've been rolled that far every single time, and it's worse every time I do it now. You're not going to know until probably Bruce Pearl or an official source gives you that. There may be reports that may be substantiated later, but I know that's a lot, and understandably so, right, Austin? Everybody wants to see this team do well. They know Janai is a piece, but I also think we can take solace in the fact that this team has done so well without Janai.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. It will be, kind of a likelihood based on how these injury reports look now that we get, right? The SEC has mandated these injury reports. Emily asked me how those are monitored, and I don't really know how honest you can be, on those, but I would think that it's a bit of an honor system, but also just, I don't think there's as much gamesmanship as there used to be, right? Well, we don't know how he's going to do it, and then he's been ready all week and he's fine to be out there. I think that you will see kind of an indication of where things are. Now, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be a for sure thing. I think you could see questionable on there a lot, right? And it be a true question on if he's going to play or not. I don't know. I think I originally said I would hold him out until mid-February. I don't think that that's really going to end up being the case anymore. Just my own speculation, kind of watching him in pregame, watching him with the team. It doesn't feel like it's as severe as maybe it was. I'm not a doctor and I'm not with Janai every day, so I don't know that. But I think that, like Kyle is saying, we will not know officially until kind of Bruce and the staff are kind of allowing us to know. There still can be an element of gamesmanship, right? We're not going to tell Tennessee tomorrow morning, hey, prepare all week for the best player in the country to play. But at the same time, I think that they are monitoring this. Would they love to have him back next week? Yes. Would they love to have him back by the following week? Yes. It's all dependent on where his health is, where his rehab is, and where these doctors feel like where he's at. So I just know, people, there's a waiting game. It's going to be okay. I think we can all be very thankful there was no surgery. There was no break. Let's just keep remembering that.
Now, what I will say, if you are interested, some key things to keep in mind, you could probably get some reports from those reporters that are able to go to practice about what he or may not be doing. That is possible. And there are very reputable places out there you should go to, take that seriously or not. There's going to be a Thursday press conference with Bruce. We usually put those out on YouTube where we might have him say something about it. Not guaranteed. Injury report is Austin so aptly put that I think comes out on Friday or something like that. But really, it could be just Janai runs out there, kind of like he surprised us after his first injury and just ran out there and participated. Hang in there. Janai will be back. We need to let him come in the right way, though. And this team, you should feel very secure in for its future, regardless of when that happens. All right, our last main topic tonight, we're going to do a little bit of a combination of what normally happens in Auburn potpourri, but it felt like it fits together. And we might do this kind of on a case-by-case basis when there's a lot of things that have happened within people who formerly are Auburn Tigers or Auburn Athletics participants. So I'm calling this, where are they now, with the AU and the now? You know how they do that weird thing.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry. I know that was
was not in pre-show notes.
That was not in pre-show notes. So just a bunch of small stories about former Auburn Tigers that have had interesting weeks or current or recent times here. So we got one for baseball, we got one and two for football, and one is actually still participating. The other just retired in some sense, and the other has been retired for some way. So let's start with the current one. This is one that I know is right at the forefront for Austin, because besides being one of the greatest Auburn Tiger fans out there, he does love his Atlanta Braves. Yeah, I do too, but I think you're probably more of a Braves fan than I am, aren't you?
Maybe. They love to hurt me.
Well, you're an Auburn fan, so you should be used to it by now. But
you would think, right?
They find new ways to hurt you, but they find new ways to make you happy, because officially, as of last week, this is a holdover from last week's show we didn't get to, Garrett Cooper, who has had a pretty impressive career and former Auburn Tiger, is officially, for now, part of the Braves roster in a sense. Now, to be clear, he has signed a deal that's in the minor leagues that will allow him to participate in spring training, I believe, with the Braves. So it's not a guarantee. And I think he's probably on the, how would you say it, Austin, like the low end, like the backswing of his career? Is that a fair statement with Garrett Cooper?
He's a veteran. I think you could easily say he's a veteran in Major League Baseball. Has done a lot in his career to hinder the Braves, but has done very well for himself at post Auburn. So really good to see him get a chance with a team closer to home. I think, like Kyle said, this is just a minor league invite. I think with his prowess and veteran style, that there's no guarantee, but there's certainly an indication that he will get a good look at if he needs to be called up to the big league team at spring training or during the season, given his history and his background of knowing how to play at the next level. So very cool for Garrett Cooper. Obviously, this is not adding to Auburn's Major League Baseball total. He was well a while ago, made his debut and got his number added to the outfield wall. But he is with the Atlanta Braves. So we like that. We like to see an Auburn Braves connection. This makes this room very happy.
Marlins, Yankees. Where else has he hurt the Braves?
I think he was with the Cubs for a minute.
Yeah, that's it.
For some reason, I think he was with the Red Sox. Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. That one finally kind of came to me. So, and Braves used to be in Boston.
Marlins for a while. That was where he did a lot of his damage against
Atlanta. I do remember that. And I try to block my memory out of that when our Auburn guy is hurt, what essentially is most people's hometown team that are Auburn fans.
Right.
First base open because he's a first baseman, correct? How's the Braves? Because I'm not as up on it as you. What's that prospect look like for him playing?
Pretty locked down. Don't think he'll be taking over for Matt Olson anytime soon.
I thought
so, unless there was an injury. But I believe with the National League implementing a couple of years ago the DH, Garrett Cooper could get some at bats at the DH and help out Marcell Ozuna and give him a rest every now and then. So we'll see where Auburn goes with Garrett Cooper. Where Garrett Cooper goes with the Braves.
Both.
Yeah. Well, it's all in one and the same, right? But really cool. I'm very excited for him. Obviously, there's been a previous Braves connection. Josh Donaldson plays for the Braves, just for a few years ago. That was really, really cool for me.
Huddy,
obviously the most notable. So very cool for Garrett Cooper to kind of join that list. I am totally blanking on where Garrett Cooper's hometown is from originally. But like you said, if it's in the Southeast, chances are he was part of Braves country. So very cool to get to see him kind of put on that jersey.
Also, a shout out to who we believe is still in the system, Blake Burkhalter.
Absolutely,
the Auburn Tigers
would love to see him at the major league level.
That's what I'm saying. We're trying to take over the Braves, and hopefully one day we can in some aspects. So congratulations to Garrett Cooper, and we'll be watching closely for those of us that are Braves fans. Moving into the football world, this is kind of a unique story because we have got a celebrity in Cam Newton that is becoming even more of a celebrity in a different sense. Now, he he is not officially retired, meaning like he said, I'm retired from the NFL. Has he yet?
I don't think so. I don't know if you're going to get that from
Right.
Cam, but I don't think so. I think we can all, it's never good to assume, but I think we can all safely assume that it's given his first take deal and this new deal you'll talk about. I think he's probably done.
I think he is as well. And we don't say that as like he's got nothing left to give to the game, but certainly I think the organizations may have moved on to different things, given he is getting up there, at least in age at this point. And still, I'm not that, I think I'm still older than him, to be honest with you. But regardless, opportunities abound, whether it's on First Take, he has been on streaming and stuff like that. And now on reality television, one Cameron Newton is participating in Fox's Special Forces, the world's toughest test. It is, you go to boot camp essentially, and then some. Now it is a reality TV show. And what do we always say about reality? It's not even that much of a realistic thing that's played out.
Reality as they want you to see.
Exactly. But I will tell you, Austin, you have not watched this, correct?
I have not. I've seen a clip of Cam, but that's about it.
And that's the thing that kind of sparked us to be able to talk about this, is the clip
from
of Cam,
our favorite show.
From our favorite show, was to be able to jump up and, like, from a boat, I think is what it was, and pull himself up into that with just brute strength and get in trouble with the officer or whatever for yelling and screaming and not acting very serious about what I would too, to be honest with you. I didn't fault Cam for screaming and yelling that I pulled it off. Like, that was quite a feat, even for him as built as he is. So if you haven't watched it, it's on Fox. I've watched a little bit of it, and it seems pretty tough. Cam's had to do some things like do this drill where they roll back locked arms into a surf, about 2-3 feet of water, and it can get very claustrophobic, or feel like you're going to drown. A lot of people have already left the show, lots of other celebrities. And he seems right now, I haven't watched the whole thing, but my wife is watching it, Jessica, to be doing pretty well. I think he even broke someone's nose, from what I understand, in a fight. I could be wrong, but I think I read that he broke someone's nose.
Like a organized fight, or
yes, I believe it was part of. It is not like. Please don't hear me spreading rumors that Cam was breaking people's noses without consent to do so.
Sure,
I think this is. He was they were scrapping or something, and I think he probably, did it in the process or whatever. You know what? Let's just move away, just in case I get him in trouble for mentioning.
Well, look, I mean, we've all known since the days he arrived on the plains, Cam Newton is an athletic specimen, and just like nothing we've ever seen. So it's not surprising to me, even after all these years in the NFL, even after being quote unquote retired for a little bit. He's still in peak athletic shape and able to kind of pull some of these things off that only the best that defend our country do. So very cool to see for him. And is there a prize, or what is the end of the goal of this?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
I tuned in slightly because I wanted to, make my wife happy. She hates that we don't have a ton of shows we watch together.
Sure.
So I Cam was there, so it wasn't as bad of a reluctance, so I got some interest out of it. And certainly it was impressive to see that he still is in pretty decent shape from the look of it. He doesn't seem to be struggling as much as others. How about that?
That boat and that helicopter were moving at insane speeds.
They were. I would say the other things that he's pulled off, having to escape a drowning situation and stuff like that, were
absolutely. I'd be tapping out. I am not built for that.
So hats off to one Cameron Newton for showing us that he's still a beast. And we'll probably, if we get a little bit of a update about how he's doing, we might come back to you and talk about it. But that's what's going on for Cam right now. Very quickly, and this is not a fun story in our Where Are They Now segment, but certainly I think it's worth bringing up because it was kind of a big news this week. Bo Jackson. I feel like we don't ever have very many negative stories about Bo. As kind of gruff as he can be at times, I feel like. Jokingly gruff, you don't really get too many stories that are in a good light. He's done Bo Bikes Bama, so many great things, being a great ambassador for Auburn.
Stays out of the spotlight relatively
until family drama gets in there. So we are only going off of what reports I have read have said. So if we get something wrong, please refer back to them to get clarity on that. But the news this week is that Bo Jackson, vacated a judgment in a lawsuit that he won against family members, $21 million, meaning he won the lawsuit, which was for defamation. And he has chosen to forego his $21 million reward. Now, Bo doesn't need the money. And it was unfortunately against reportedly a niece and a nephew that were going out of their way to harass, defame him, believe on social media as well. I think we can assume in the efforts of getting something out of him, which is kind of what this seems to imply here. This is a story that started kind of circulated many months ago, but this is just kind of the end result of it. So it's sad to see that this is kind of what Bo has to get involved with, but in some sense, I guess good on him for recognizing he might not get the money, nor does he need it, frankly.
Yeah, it's not fun to see. You definitely feel for that family and hope that the relationships can be restored maybe in the right time. But definitely unfortunate, but a very good thing. I'm sure Bo feels relieved on, just to kind of put that behind him a little bit. So definitely feel for him and that family. And never good to see in the news. But like you mentioned, with Bo Bikes Bama and his countless charity efforts to help those less fortunate there, it's sad to see something like that of defamation go against him.
Well, and to see him, at least from what we can tell outside looking at handle it what seems the best way that you can in that thing, getting the judgment to say, hey, you did wrong, but, basically recognizing and being the reasonable person in the party and saying, look, just let's get this handled in the sense that it needs to be handled to send the message, and then we'll move on. And he can go back and being the great representative of Auburn that we know and love, and doing all the great work, as you pointed out, that he's done for others, even outside. I mean, all for the state of Alabama, raising money for victims of natural disasters and all the like. So
really hoping we see Bo, not necessarily, I would love to see more of Bo on Auburn's campus. Really hoping we see more of Bo's involvement, maybe with Nike coming in July to put a positive spin on that, on maybe where are we now. Would love this. I don't know if it's just rumors. It's probably just rumors since we would have probably covered it, but I feel like I've seen more of like the Bo sneakers when he was playing, the Nike sneakers being brought back maybe in the Auburn sense when the deal goes through officially. I think that'd be really cool. Some Bo Nike. I'm sure Charles is very excited about Nike as well. So that'll be a fun thing for us to discuss this summer with Auburn's Nike athletes that went on Nike professionally, now getting a hand in it. Maybe we'll see where are they now and how they have a hand in that later on.
I can feel our friend Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database perking up when you said Bo and Nike, and
he's like spazzing a little bit.
He's like that's my stuff.
His ears are twitching.
They're talking about my things. My things. He'll probably demand to be on the show for that when we eventually end up talking about that Nike deal. And he's done some discussions with us previously, so you should go check it out on our YouTube channel, especially. We covered a lot, and that'll do it for episode 110. Almost said 101, but 110. We are continue to move on past that episode 100. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and spending time talking about the Auburn experience. If you want to keep up with me, you can do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you, Austin?
Yeah, on X, on Instagram, Austin G. Scott. Snow pictures are to come. We'll see.
Of Bobby,
Brooks and Barrett. Everything I'm sure there will be a snow Bobby demanded, but we'll see how we do. An Auburn snowman is happening now. How tall will it be? I have no idea, but an Auburn snowman will happen. I will definitely update with what all we were able to get on him.
Well, no offense if you're going to use your height for a reference point. I don't think it's going to be too tall, buddy. Sorry.
Well, I'm just hoping I have enough snow. That was a under the belt moment. That was unnecessary. All I wanted to know is if it's going to be like this tall or like normal size.
Well, I had to throw that in there. You don't want us to joke on you losing basketball games.
I'm 4-0. I'm 4-0.
You got the win this week. And maybe it'll continue as you continue to go to basketball games, but you're still short, my friend. I'm kidding. All right. That being said, before I get myself in more trouble, thank you guys for hanging out with us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. So we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.